America's courts, biased or impartial?
Okay.
Imagine a nation without a fair justice system. What would the nation be like?
Thankfully, the United States Constitution includes the Sixth Amendment, which prevents our nation from experiencing this.
The right to an impartial jury is important to us because it is necessary to preserve our equality in the court
An
system.
impartial jury is people that can set aside their own feelings, their own emotions, and their own experiences and make a decision based on both what the law states and the evidence that's presented to them, rather than reacting to how they feel.
The process of jury selection is known as voir dire and ensures that the jurors are fit to have a voice in the decision of the trial. Potential jurors are inspected and asked questions to predict as best as possible if they will make unbiased opinions. The answers to the questions for the specific case may eliminate who may risk the jury from not being impartial. The process of voir dire must examine the wording of the questions and answers carefully to ensure that the people eliminated from the jury be reasonable. The Supreme Court case Witherspoon v. Illinois in 1968 concluded that the previous state case had violated the process of obtaining an impartial jury by eliminating an unfair amount of jurors, making the case one-sided. Witherspoon was sentenced to death because almost half of the jurors were eliminated because they seemed to be against the death penalty. However, the wording in the process of voir dire should not have led to the dismissal of these jurors. They indeed had possible doubt about the death penalty, which is acceptable because they had not outrightly opposed the death penalty. This landmark case exemplified the necessity of the careful and thorough examination during voir dire. By the year 1958, 24 states in the United States had still not legalized interracial marriage. For this reason, Mildred Loving and Richard Loving, who lived in Virginia, went to Washington, D.C. to get married. However, their marriage was not acknowledged when they went back to their home state. Thus, the Supreme Court case of Loving v. Virginia in 1967 came about. The jury selection was crucial as racist opinions could have gotten in the way of the court decision. Opinions may have been influenced by the prospective juror's race and experiences with racism. Thankfully, voir dire helped avoid this, and interracial marriages were legalized in the United States. Where a trial takes place may affect the outcome. There may be an influence of local media, residents, or both on the jury of the case. If there is a popular opinion on the case, the jury may lean towards that opinion and make a decision based on it and not the one they had initially believed in. In order to ensure that this not happen, venues can be changed to keep the jury impartial. It is important that if a venue is changed, it is done as quickly as possible before news and opinions spread out from where the trial is being held. The murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman took place in Santa Monica, California. In order for local media and residents of the area to not play a factor in the decision of the case of the People versus O.J. Simpson in 1995, the venue was changed to downtown Los Angeles. The jury for Anthony versus State in 2011 was selected in Clearwater, Florida, instead of Orlando, where the victim and suspect were from. Casey Anthony was suspected for killing her 2-year-old daughter and went through trial. However, the jury was selected as quickly as possible in its location to avoid the immediate intense media from influencing the verdict of the trial.
Caution has to be taken with terrorists because of the seriousness of the crime. But if you make groups of people that are tried differently than everybody else, it's a slippery slope. Who's to say your group isn't next? So by creating a fair trial, it actually takes some of the steam out of the sails of terrorists because they can't claim that they've been treated differently.
Some states believe that certain accused criminals, such as terrorists, should be treated differently in a court of law. The states will often use certain strategies in the hopes to increase safety. They will extend the max limit of a pre-charge detention and broaden evidence that can be withheld from the jury during the trial. They can also limit the opportunity of a review in the legality of detention, as well as use confessions obtained through force, including torture. The states will also use an abundance of anonymous witnesses. The courts for suspected terrorists can also be held in specialized chambers instead of the typical courtroom. These acts go against the general rule for a fair trial. Regardless of the accused crime, all suspected criminals must be treated the same to preserve equality and justice in the legal system in order to uphold the Sixth Amendment by creating unbiased courts.
Well, the Sixth Amendment contains a lot of the pieces of what everybody thinks of as a fair trial. So it's really just a collection of rights, like the right to have a lawyer with you, and the right to confront witnesses, which is really the right to cross-examine witnesses, and all of those rights together are intended to ensure that defendants get what we generally think of as a fair trial.
The right to an impartial jury is essential to preserve our equality and justice in the court system. The use of moving trial locations prevents public opinion from having an influence on the trial's results. The process of jury selection allows the jurors to have a voice in the decision and is used to eliminate biased jurors. Some states use different techniques to treat specific suspected criminals differently than other accused criminals. The use of treating suspects differently in a court of law goes against the Sixth Amendment because it allows biased opinions to dictate the outcome of a trial. The Sixth Amendment is a crucial part of obtaining justice within the American court system and must be respected and upheld.